never appeared on maps, a place controlled quietly by powerful men who never showed their faces. My parents were ordinary people, honest, invisible, and therefore disposable. One night, everything ended. A corporate militia stormed our sector after accusing my father of leaking internal data, a lie created to justify wiping us out. I watched my parents executed in front of me, not because they were guilty, but because fear needed an example. I was beaten, dragged, and thrown into a forgotten containment zone known as the Rifata wasteland, where people were dumped to disappear. As I lay there bleeding under a dead sky, something inside me shut down. That night, I didn't beg to live. I decided that if I survived, I would become the consequence they never saw coming. The rift was not meant for survival. Pilled the land, poisoned water, storms shredded skin, and gangs hunted anything that moved. Most people broke within weeks. I learned to adapt. I learned when to speak, when to disappear, and when to strike. I fought scavengers, avoided creatures that hunted by sound, and stole supplies from people far worse than me. Over time, I met others who had been discredited engineers, former soldiers, strategists, people whose lives had been erased by the same system. I listened. I trained. I learned weapons, hand-to-hand combat, and most importantly, patience. Revenge is not built on rage, is built on preparation. Years passed, and the boy they threw away no longer existed. What remained was someone who understood systems, weaknesses, and how power rots from the inside. I didn't return for chaos. I returned with purpose. Instead of attacking directly, I dismantled their structure piece by piece. I exposed secrets, redirected supply routes, turned their own mercenaries against them using nothing but truth and timing. Cities collapsed financially. Before a single shot was fired, leaders accused each other. Trust evaporated. When they finally noticed me, it was already too late. I allowed myself to be captured just to look the man who ordered my family's execution in the eyes. He didn't recognize me at first. That was the best part. I told him everything, how every system around him now answered to me, how his empire was already dead but didn't know it yet. There was no dramatic speech, no mercy, just accountability delivered calmly. His final destruction happened without celebration. Their headquarters burned during a controlled collapse I designed myself. No civilians died, only those who had built their power on blood and silence. When it was over, I didn't stay to watch the ruins. Revenge wasn't the end, it was closure. I walked away, leaving behind a world forced to rebuild without its predators. I don't call myself a hero, and I don't want forgiveness. I tell this story because monsters survive when we forget what they've done. I was left to die once. I survived, and I made sure my pain meant something.